Now, if you're anything like me, and I know I am, the first time that I get into writing some code, sometimes things will go wrong. Now, maybe whatever it is that you're doing works flawlessly, but in the real world, things will go sideways. And sometimes it will be because of the mistakes that you made. So let's talk about how we can deal with those different types of errors. But before we talk about how we can deal with them, we should probably start defining a couple of different terms. I want to try and make a very clear distinction between error handling and debugging, because these are two very different things. Sometimes people will use them to mean something synonymous, when they're really not. Error handling is when I have a problem with my code that's running, and it's not something that I'm going to be able to predict when I push my code out into production. Those things happen in the wild. Those things happen in the real world. They're things that I don't have control over. Contrast that with debugging. Debugging is when I know what my problem is in my code, and that's potentially giving me a wrong answer. It's potentially crashing. And I know that there's something I've done incorrectly that's causing my code to go sideways, and that's debugging. When we're talking about errors, these fall under three categories: syntax errors, runtime errors, and logic errors. With the syntax error, a code is not going to run at all. Believe it or not, you have to choose between the errors. This is a type of error that you want. This is typically going to be easiest to try and track down because of the fact that, again, your code is just going to fail right then. And then the error message that you're going to get will typically point you right where the problem is.
So if we take a look at our output, you'll notice that it's actually telling me right here that we need to add a colon after A. That's why it's giving us a syntax error, because we're missing a key there. So syntax errors are good errors. We want those.
Now, runtime errors are the second best type of error, where the code is running and something has gone wrong and it's going to blow up.
Now, in my case here, the problem that I'm going to run into is that I'm trying to do the classic divide by zero. When we hit that line in our code, it's going to give us the error message that you see right down there at the bottom. Division by zero. It's also handily going to point me at the line number where the problem occurred. Runtime errors are actually pretty decent errors because they will give me a little bit of information right up front to let me know where to start for trying to debug my code. Now, when you get a runtime error, the basic strategy here is to start from the line that's given you, and then work your way up to see where the error occurred. Now, one important tip that I want to give you here when you're dealing with a runtime error, I'm going to guarantee you the problem is somewhere inside of your code. One of the most common mistakes that I made was that I tried something, it'll go wrong, and then I would make the assumption that there was a problem inside of the framework that I'm using, or inside of the runtime that I was using, etc. While it's technically a possibility, chances are that it's not going to be there.